In the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire was expanding at a fast pace, conquering the Balkans and Constantinople, the last bastion of the Roman Empire. Most of these conquests were made by Sultan Mehmed II, who had ambitions to create a powerful state and laid plans to attack Italy. However, a failed attempt to make an alliance with Venice contributed to Mehmed's decision to carry on with his long-standing plan for an invasion of Italy. The son of Murad II, Mehmed the Conqueror reorganized both state and military, and on May 29, 1453 conquered Constantinople, ending the Byzantine Empire. Mehmed allowed the Eastern Orthodox Church to maintain its autonomy and land in exchange for accepting Ottoman authority. Due to tension between the states of Western Europe and the later Byzantine Empire, most of the Orthodox population accepted Ottoman rule as preferable to Venetian rule. Albanian resistance was also a major obstacle to Ottoman expansion on the Italian peninsula. In 1479, the Ottomans proposed an alliance to Venice. The Signoria declined the request. However, from Venetian sources, it can be inferred that the Signoria, through Battista Gritti, its new bailo in Istanbul, gave the Sultan to understand that it would be his rights in seizing Brindisi to Tanto and Otranto. While it is impossible to say what extent such declarations contributed to Mehmed's decision to carry out his long-standing plan for a landing in Italy, he acted quickly and resolutely. Early in the summer of 1480, Caputo and Ideria, Gedik, Ahmet Pasha received orders from Mehmed to cross the Strait of Otranto. On July 28, 1480, an Ottoman force, which was commanded by Gedik Ahmet Pasha, consisting of 90 galleys, 40 galleots and other ships, and carrying a total of around 150 crew and 18,000 troops, landed beneath the walls of Otranto. The city strongly resisted the Ottoman assaults, but the garrison was unable to withstand the bombardment for long. The garrison and all of the townsfolk thus abandoned the main part of the city on 29 July and retreated into the citadel, and the Ottomans began bombarding the neighbouring houses. According to accounts of the story chronicled by Giovanni Leghetto and Saverio Di Marco, the Ottomans promised clemency if the city capitulated, but were informed that it would never surrender. A second Ottoman messenger was sent to repeat the offer, but was slain with arrows, and an Otranto guardsman flung the keys of the city into the sea. The Ottoman artillery then resumed its bombardment. A messenger was dispatched to beseech King Ferdinand I of Naples for assistance, but most of the Aragonese militias were already committed in Tuscany. Nearly 7/8 of Otranto's militia slipped over the city walls and fled. The remaining 50 soldiers fought alongside the citizenry and dumped boiling oil and water onto the Ottomans who were trying to scale the ramparts between the cannonades. The citadel fell after a 15-day siege on August 12. After the walls had been breached, the Ottomans began fighting their way through the town. Upon reaching the cathedral, they found Archbishop Stefano Agricolo, fully vested and crucifix in hand, who was awaiting them with Count Francesco Lago. The archbishop was beheaded before the altar, his companions were sawn in half, and their accompanying priests were all murdered. After desecrating the cathedral, the Ottomans gathered the women and older children to be sold into Albanian slavery. Men over 15, small children and infants were slain. According to some historical accounts, a total of 12,000 were killed and 5,000 enslaved, including victims from the territories of the Salentine Peninsula around the city. In August, 70 ships of the fleet attacked Vieste. On 12 September, the Monastero di San Nicolas di Casole, which had accommodated one of the richer libraries of Europe, was destroyed. By October, attacks had been conducted against the coastal cities of Lex, Taranto, and Brindisi. However, the lack of supplies made the Ottoman commander, Gedik Ahmet Pasha, unable to consolidate his forces' advance. Instead, he returned with most of his troops to Albania and left a garrison of 800 infantry and 500 Sipahi behind to defend Otranto. It was assumed that he would return with his army after the winter. Since only 27 years had passed since the fall of Constantinople, there was some fear that Rome would suffer the same fate. Plans were made for the Pope and the citizens to evacuate the city. Pope Sixtus IV repeated his 1471 call for a crusade. Several Italian city-states, Hungary and France, responded positively. The Republic of Venice did not do so, as it had signed an expensive peace treaty with the Ottomans in 1479. In April 1481, Sixtus IV called for an Italian crusade to liberate the city, and Christian forces besieged Otranto in May. An army was raised by King Ferdinand I of Naples, to be led by his son Alfonso, Duke of Calabria. A contingent of troops was provided by King Matthias Corvinus of Hungary. The Pope's intention was that after recapturing Otranto, the Crusaders would cross the Adriatic and liberate Vlorë. The Christian forces besieged the city on May 1, 1481. Between August and September, King Ferdinand of Naples, with the help of his cousin Ferdinand the Catholic and the Kingdom of Sicily, attempted to recapture Otranto. Portugal decided to send a squadron into Otranto under command of the Bishop of Évora, Garcia de Menezes. In a letter dated August 27, 1481, to Cardinal Paulo de Campofrego, Sixtus wrote, "From Portugal there are 20 caravels and a cargo ship that we expect on the day at St. Paul's, whose leader is a venerable brother Garcia, Bishop of Évora." Mehmed II was preparing for a new campaign on Italy, but lost his life on 3 May. The succession issues prevented the Ottomans from sending reinforcements to Otranto. After negotiation with the Christian forces, the Ottomans surrendered in August, left Otranto in September 1481, and ended the 13-month occupation. On 14 September, the very day that the Ottomans surrendered Otranto, the Pope was writing from Bracciano to his vice-chamberlain, who had informed him of the slow progress of the Portuguese fleet. Sixtus was suspicious of Garcia's intentions. The next day, he wrote to the bishop and praised him for his diligence and caution, but urged him to take his fleet to Vlorë to oust the Ottoman garrison there to do something worthy of the Christian religion and your honour and that of your king, in reference to the recently deceased King Afonso V. Sixtus also urged Garcia to take Andreas Palaiologos, the deposed despot of Morea, back to Greece to begin the reconquest of his lands. The number of citizens, which is said to have been nearly 20,000, had decreased to 8,000 by the end of the century. The Ottomans also briefly held Otranto once more after they conquered it in 1537.